Today I wanted to share with you a challenging question I've been facing, which is basically, is there a maturity model for companies trying to go the product-led transformation routes? I believe the answer to be no, but with my practice with different clients, I've seen some patterns and what I will call some principles that build on top of each other that need to be in place for us to think about bigger or more complete step of what we will call product excellence or product-led approaches. So how I usually think about this is you can see to the left some of these principles, and I divide it across some parts of our product process / some fundamentals. So we have the first column is some fundamentals of team structure and roles. Then we have the direction, discovery, optimization, and delivery of products, if we think about kind of how the process is working in the company. So to give you my thoughts and then hopefully receive some feedback from you, at the first stage, what usually happens is that these companies are trying to go the product-led transformation route or trying to increase their product maturity, let's call it, usually already went through some sort of agile consolidation, either a startup that has or scale up actually at this stage that needs to organize their teams better, or a traditional organization that used to work with a formal IT department and a PMO and organize their own projects. And now they are already doing some agile practices, which means that they have dedicated teams. That is a great fundamental part of being able to move to product. But on top of these dedicated teams that are usually focused on some components or some part of the software, they also are able to deliver iteratively. Interestingly enough, usually they don't ship after each delivery, so they have, say, 2-week sprints, but after those sprints, they don't deliver value to the customer. Usually they take a few cycles to deliver something, but still they are able to slice the work in meaningful chunks. So that's the first principle. For sure, that's not product-led at all. And if there is a product function, it's mostly about managing the project, so that the product owner administrative functions in there. But it's a good stepping stone to go to what I call the second principle, which will be outcome-based. And maybe something I should set up front is that usually companies are all over the place in this map, so it's not like a regular path to progress. But I usually say that if you are doing, for example, a lot of discovery, or if you are trying to do strategy without having any outcome sense, doesn't make any sense, because you will not be able to move from teams that deliver outputs to teams that achieve certain outcomes that you are trying to achieve. So anyway, outcome sense is the second principle. And what we start to see here is that teams have, or the products have, dashboards that make their metrics visible, the performance visible, and we have people, and we'll call it product managers in this case, that are trying to analyze those metrics to find opportunities in which we can improve the product, and those opportunities that we find through these dashboards that we look for optimization, we are able to move it to this agile process, so we are able to continually now deliver value added for the customer. The product, if we go to the fundamentals, so now there is now a product function. The product function is mostly based on these metrics. So they are trying to analyze opportunities. They're trying to justify what they are being told to build, which is probably still the build trap. But they are justifying it or prioritizing it in some way based on the value they perceive they can achieve based on these metrics that are now visible and tracked. So as a good stage to come to the third part, which is what I will call solution discovery, the third principle. And in this case, teams are still mostly given things to build, but they have a wider space of the things that they are given are a bit more abstract, and they have more chances to explore how to best build them to achieve the outcomes they are trying to achieve. So again, if you are doing solution discovery without having outcome sense, you don't know what you are trying to achieve, so it doesn't make much sense. But once you have these outcomes in place, being able to move to discovery is more useful. And what you start seeing here are some more formal discovery processes or practices. So they have more customer interactions, probably not as frequent as Tersatorres would like, but we have some sort of source customers to show them prototypes, and we have been doing interviews and things like that. So we are trying to, of course, mostly focus on validating the solution at this stage, but we have that more formally implemented. And the things we then move to a build stage have a more concrete hypothesis, and we build some engines, for example, for A/B testing it or validating through these metrics that we achieve in the second principle. We are validating if we are moving towards what we're trying to achieve. And also, interesting enough, at this stage, usually the trio or more voices come to the table, so the decision making is more on these dedicated teams, is more shared across disciplines, so it's more interdisciplinary. If we go to the fourth layer, now it's what, if you read most books, is what we are probably the minimum level we are trying to achieve, which is being customer-centric and outcome-oriented. And here, to me, the most critical part is when direction comes into play. So you are trying to have a more solid, well-fundamented strategy in place that is explicit and is connected to either the strategic roadmaps or the objectives that the teams are receiving. So you are leading with context. The teams are receiving these problems that they need to solve. And also the discovery practice is much more robust because you need that in place to feed the ideas or the insights that you need to create a more solid strategy. So there is a kind of healthy interaction between discovery practices that now extend beyond the solution, and you're trying to explore the problem space and the kind of the spaces that you can cover, and in that way you have more empowered teams. And finally, if we move above the level, you will find that there is, of course, a level in which you can keep continually improving this excellence. Usually it's more about how we build a community of practice, how we make a more strong product culture, and of course the direction can solidify more, being more purpose-driven, having a stronger vision, and so on. So again, this is just to share how I think about this problem. I probably write about it in upcoming weeks, but I would like to receive some feedback and see if you perceive that there is an existence of a maturity model. And of course, I'm coaching and working with clients around this. So if you are interested in discussing how I can help with these topics, please let me know and let's discuss.